Welcome to the Pest Empire Builder Podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about SEO, digital marketing, and how to grow your pest control company. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you tuned in today. On today's episode, we have a fantastic guest. Danny's with me today, and we're talking about SEO, digital marketing, and how to grow your pest control company through internet and digital marketing. Danny, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Matt. Thank you for having me.
Man, I'm so glad to get you on here. I know we've just recently met, and I'm excited to learn more about what you're doing and how you got there. But hey, let's start with this. Where are you located at?
Absolutely. Well, like we already mentioned, which is kind of unfortunate, we had to redo the show, so we have to recap some of the things we already mentioned. I'm from Chicago. So like we were saying, I'm a big Bears fan. I love the Bears. I love the Cubs. I love the Blackhawks. Diehard Chicago person. Been here my whole life.
Nice.
Absolutely love it.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Broncos fan. And so, we have our shared quarterback from Jay Cutler, went from us to you guys. And it's interesting as a Broncos fan too. My team's been like a little touchy here and there. And Bears, kind of here and there. So, but hey, football season's starting to kick back up again. And hopefully we both have a good season with our teams.
Very, very excited. No, I know Jay Cutler was horrible for both of us, especially us. Hoping, every single year, I'm very hopeful. I think we're going to be good every single year. We got Fields, we got some, more people in the defense, everything, but it just never comes together. I don't know what it is.
Right. So it's 2025 and our preseason is about to start for everybody. And it's always right about now. I'm like, hey, I think my team has a chance. We're going to be pretty. And it's about 4 or 5 weeks in. I'm like, frick, never mind. Yeah.
No, I know it's every time. All my friends are diehard Bear fans too. Yep. You can't be hopeful anymore.
Not really. Yeah. It's like, it's brutal unless you've been, I don't know, like right now, the Kansas City Chiefs have been on a multi-year, streak. So they've been, that's a good season to be a Chiefs fan. And like it was for the Patriots for a while, and hopefully one of our teams has their run too,
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully in the next 20 years or so.
Maybe. Yeah. Who knows, right? Who knows, man? Who knows? All right, man. So you got into digital marketing, SEO, and then specifically in pest control spaces. Man, how'd you get started in this?
Yeah, definitely. So I'll walk back to the beginning of my journey. So I got in digital marketing about 5 years ago. And like we mentioned, or like we talked about, I initially got my start in copywriting. So I was trying all different kinds of ways to make money online, like some other young guys are doing. I was trying drop shipping, blogging, consulting, ghostwriting, all kinds of different ways to make money online. And I finally hit my stride in copywriting. Basically, nothing else was working. And copywriting, I finally actually started to make a little bit of money. I was starting to pick up some clients. I was starting to pick up some decent work. And really, I was picking up all kinds of work. I was doing sales letters. I was doing ghostwriting for some pretty popular influencers. I was doing some Facebook ads. Like I told you, I even did some like radio ads and like some other crazy stuff for all kinds of different industries as well. So I was developing my copywriting ability and I was growing my Twitter following at the time. So I grew to like 8,000 followers and I've got 12,000, which is actually pretty hard to grow on Twitter. That might be the hardest platform in my opinion. I've done a lot on every kind of platform. So I was growing my personal brand, growing my following, and I was starting to pivot from copywriting. I wanted something more because I felt like it was kind of a baseline fundamental skill that everyone should have, but I wanted to make more money like everyone does. So I got into website building and funnel building, and I was doing that mainly for agency owners because I was friends with a lot of other agency owners, along with some software companies, and then that eventually pivoted into home service companies. I started doing work first for my dad's company. He has a flooring company. I was helping my mom with her company. She has a mental health therapy company. Doing some consulting for my uncle who has a construction company, and then other people that I'm very familiar with in the home service space. And like I was telling you, I've been around home services and local businesses my whole life. So this is just kind of all I've known, and it just felt like the right path. And I also had a pretty good entryway. It was almost like my dad's company was the guinea pig. And around that time, I met my mentor, Dennis Hugh. He was a huge really huge element of my growth and helping me go forward in my journey. I met him around that time. This is a few years ago. And I told him about what I was doing, that I was kind of switching from copywriting and website building for agencies and software companies to now more SEO related things, maybe Google ads for home service businesses. And he said,
Nice.
You totally should do that and I can help you. And he actually, I didn't even know this, but he has a big agency helping home service companies grow through digital marketing. And they have all kinds of clients in different industries, but mainly it is home services. So he took me to various conferences. We really hit it off. And the one that was really fundamental and really changed my beliefs was the 7-Figure Agency Seminar run by Josh Nelson. Josh Nelson runs a program, and first off, an agency. His agency does about $7 million a year, plumbing and HVAC SEO. And then they have the program, which is 7-Figure Agency. So now, because he's grown a big agency, he's kind of figured out the secret that now he trains other agencies on how to grow. And it's also mainly agencies that are focusing on one particular vertical in home services. And that's typically what he recommends, because there's such a big opportunity in home services. A lot of pest control companies are struggling, a lot of inspectors, a lot of garage door people. Home services are just way behind in digital marketing. I was trying to help out, agency owners and software companies. These guys already knew everything. I mean, they're crushing it. They're crushing it on email. They're crushing it on social. Maybe there's a little bit to tweak here, there, but the opportunity is in home services, is what I found. So,
absolutely, man. Because like in home services, you have normally in that business, you have a technician who's good at doing whatever service it is, whether it's plumbing or garage doors or HVAC or electrical or inspections or pest control in this instance, and they're good at their technician skill, and then they have to go from the technician side and kind of reverse engineer growing a business to match their technician skill. And so so normally these guys are very good at their specific home service, but not very good at specifically building the company, or they have to level up their skill set in these areas. Whereas a software guy kind of knows computer and software things, but he wouldn't know how to, well, I shouldn't say he wouldn't, but he would have to work hard to learn this home service side. I think you're onto something, man, especially when you really hone in on a specific home service industry. You become the expert in that lane, because there's nuance between different home services and how you're going to market and how you're going to digitally grow those things. And so when you find the nuance of a specific one, like pest control, then you're able to be exceptional in that specific lane. I think that's a great idea. And I love how you've really honed in on pest control to help us grow our pest control companies.
Absolutely. No, that's my whole focus. And I realized that not only is niching down great for me, but it's also great for my clients. And I really understand the pest control industry. I've talked with a lot of the top people in pest control. I know the main problems. I know the main services. I know, the different prices, the different KPIs that we should be looking at. And another thing I was going to mention is that I saw it firsthand with my dad, that my dad is 66. He's older. He's never even had a Facebook account. He's never had any kind of social media. Yep. So the concept of digital marketing was just totally foreign to him. And, he bought a website from someone. And when I was just starting out, even I took a look at his website. I'm like, dude, I could build something better than this. And I've been building websites for like less than a year. So I ended up building his website and really getting familiar that way. But there's a huge opportunity in home services. Just very few companies are actually doing a good job in SEO, on social, on paid search, paid social, everything regarding digital marketing.
And so it's easy to stand out in the home services space from your other competitors if you start doing these things, because not very many of them are good. Not very many home service companies are good at this. So when you're looking at pest control companies, not many of them are doing a great job at this. They're doing kind of a average or maybe even below average job on digital marketing. And so if you get connected, right, they get connected with you, Danny, all of a sudden you can level them up, and it's easy to stand out from your competition with good digital marketing, because the majority of industry is not very good at it.
Yeah, no, definitely. With something like SEO, it's competition based. So it really depends on how good other people are doing. And this actually directly ties into working with something like a software company. Software companies usually crush SEO. They have a super high authority score, if people are familiar with that, a lot of high quality backlinks, a lot of traffic. It is so hard to start a software company now, at least in terms of growing through things like SEO and more organic strategies, because there's so many companies out there that are already crushing it. Whereas various verticals within home services, people aren't really doing too much. I mean, the big companies are still crushing it. So in pest control, that's Orkin, Terminix, some of these other big guys. They're crushing it, but for the most part, almost no one is actually doing a great job at a lot of these different aspects of digital marketing.
Right. And that's where bringing someone like you to come help out with their company is a huge help for them. So for a guy who's a technician owning a business, what do you see as an obstacle for like a mindset shift that needs to happen, right? The guy's used to, putting chemicals in a truck, going out, spraying, maybe doing some door-to-door sales, because that has been traditionally how you gain customers, and it's still a great route to go. But if you're going to start bringing in digital marketing, what's a mindset shift that the typical pest control small business owner has to make in order to start looking at this in a different lens?
The goal should be to get out of the truck. So all of these guys, like you were mentioning, they come from a technician background. Maybe they worked for their dad's company or for Orkin or another big company. And they're used to teching all the time. And, you might be a great tech. You might know everything about how to service, but you have to expand your horizons and you have to start learning about other aspects of the business. If you truly want to grow, then you have to start learning about marketing. You have to start learning about hiring. You have to learn about these other aspects within your business, or else you're just going to be a tech forever. And honestly, part of this, and really where we should start, is like, what are your goals? Because I think a lot of these guys would actually be happy if they can technically own their own business, but maybe it's just them and their son or them and their friends, but it's still a fairly small operation, and they do $500K a year, and they get a pretty good chunk of that. And I hear owners say, oh, I'm operating at 70-80% margins. Well, it's like, yeah, because you haven't really hired a staff. But if that's what you want to do, if you just want to make a decent amount of money, if you're not really going for $1 million plus, or some people are really ambitious going for multi 8 figures, but it depends on your goals. So that's really actually where we should start. And I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge that, is what are your goals? Like, what do you actually want out of this company that you're starting? Like, is your company doing for you what you want it to do for you? Yeah, absolutely. 100%. And success really is your company doing for you what you want it to do for you? You got to define what is success for you. I mean, like that's really a great point, Danny. Like what is success for you? Because for some people, it's like, I want to work 4 days a week, and I want to I want to be in the truck. I just want to go spray my route for 4 days a week. I put a couple $100,000 in profit into my bank account every year, and I'm happy there. And if that's success and that's where you're happy, then that's success and you're happy, and be happy with that. I think so many times we can look to the left and the right to try to determine like our happiness level of like, well, so-and-so over there they got 3 technicians and man, they're doing this kind of work, and this guy's doing this over here. And if we start comparing ourselves to other people to try to define what our success is, that's a recipe for unhappiness in life. And I think you're so right, Danny. You got to figure out what makes you happy. What are your goals? What do you want your business to do for you? And once you define that, then you can start moving forward of like, okay, well, because if you don't have that defined, you don't even know what you're aiming for. Then what's the point of doing any marketing? Because I think your marketing is not going to be congruent with who you are as a human and what your ideas of success and what your goals are, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have to start with the end goal and reverse engineer. A lot of people just say, oh, I want to start a business. Oh, I want to grow. But like we need to get a little bit more clear and a little bit more tactical, so then we can act upon and build a plan and a system around what we want to achieve. Now, with all of that being said, with like being goals oriented, and we were saying, it's all right if you want a smaller company. With that being said, I think a lot of people listening to this podcast and people that listen to my podcast and that talk to me, a lot of them do really want to grow. So we can then jump into that of what does it look like actually starting your company, of what you should get going immediately. So we can talk about that if you'd like.
No, I think that's fantastic. Yeah. So where would you go from there?
Yeah, so I'll let you know first my expertise. My expertise is really everything regarding Google. So that would be Google Ads, local service ads, Google Business Profile, website. Those are my main platforms. I'm also kind of a social media guy, personal branding, some other aspects within the business. I'd like to say I'm just overall digital marketing. I would say something really easy that you can get going right away is local service ads. So for people that aren't familiar, local service ads came out in 2015. They were originally home service ads, and they came out for a very small amount of industries, and I believe they came out for pest control in 2021. So they're fairly new, they're fairly recent. Again, now they're local service ads, and some people might also know them as Google Guaranteed. So this is something that I believe every company should set up and get going right away. So if you're not familiar with Google search and with local search,
I'm not familiar with what you're talking about here, man. And I've owned a few service companies.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
So
I was an electrical contractor for a long time. That was before, I was back in the early 2000s. But I currently own another couple home inspection, or I own home inspection, another home service company, and I'm not exactly familiar with what you're talking about.
Yeah, local service ads. So local service ads show up at the top of Google search. So if someone can, if you're listening to this, you can even pause the show real quick, go to your search and search up something like pest control near me, pest control Chicago, inspector near me, whatever. And typically what you'll see, at least for pest control searches, I'm not as familiar with inspector, but the pest control searches, just about every time you'll see local service ads at the very top. So what it used to be was Google ads at the top, and then there'd be the 10 blue links. But in the past few years, Google search has drastically changed, and now they're even implementing things like AI mode, which maybe we can get into later. Google search has rapidly changed. Local service ads are a huge component of showing up on search now. So a lot of people would just rank their Google business profiles. They'd get a good amount of traffic that way. Maybe you're ranking some pages on your websites. Mm-hmm. But I hate to say it, your website is becoming less and less relevant. Google business profile and local service ads are taking a ton of traffic, and Google ads take a good amount of traffic as well. So we really want to make sure that we're on local service ads and Google business profile. And the great thing about local service ads is it's the easiest of all the four that I mentioned. It is so easy to set up. Everyone should go set these up right away. Now, some of the complaints that I've heard are that it might be a little bit too expensive. Or I literally just had a call with a pest control owner an hour or two ago, and he was saying that, they're charging us for leads that we didn't get, or they weren't quality, it was for a different job that we don't recommend or we don't do. But generally, from what I've heard from pest control owners, it is fantastic. The leads are super quality because they're coming from Google. Mm-hmm. They click on the local service ads, and instead of Google ads are pay per click. So you pay for the click, and then either maybe they go to your Google business profile, or they go to a website page, mm-hmm. They just go directly to call. But you can't exactly attribute, and you can't exactly say, you could send a ton of people to a landing page, but then maybe none of them convert. The beauty of local service ads is that it's actually pay per qualified lead. So you're only getting charged for when people call your business and they are actually a qualified customer. So not only when they call, but also when they're qualified. So you used to have to do this on your own. You used to have to go through your call log manually in local service ads. This was just updated less than a year ago. It was kind of later last year. You used to go through all the calls that you got, and you had to manually mark them. You had to say, this is a good lead, or you'd have to say, okay, no, this, and really there's two aspects that I think of this is that either they are outside of our service area or we don't provide that service. So if we are strictly pest and they're looking for wildlife, then we say very clearly on the call, and now I'm saying this is how it works. We say very clearly on the call, okay, hey, sorry, Jenny, we do not do wildlife control in Charlotte, North Carolina, whatever it is. And now, instead of manually marking, Google's system, Google's AI, will manually mark it for you. So it's not perfect. I've heard some complaints here, but I'd say it's better than doing it yourself. We used to have to do it for my agency, or I'd have to train kind of office managers within pest control companies. But now Google will handle it for you. So you just have to be very clear, and it will read the call logs, and you will only get charged for those qualified leads. So that's super
awesome.
Easy. Yeah, that's something super easy you can set up, and it's even easier than Google Business Profile. I see Google Business Profile is very easy. There's not too much to set up. There's not too much to optimize or do on a recurring basis. Local service ads, it's like almost nothing. And I have a nightmare story here. Like I said, local service ads, you kind of just set it up one time. You have to have a business location. You have to be a registered business. Right. So some of this other kind of entry-level information. You go through the onboarding process. You tell them kind of your service area, your service, add some photos, logo, website, all this other stuff. And then that's basically it. They kind of just run for you. And actually, when I was mentioning my mentor, he runs a big marketing agency. A client came to him from another agency, and this was, I believe it was like a legal law firm, something like that. They came to his agency with their previous agency, they were getting charged $30K a month for local service ads management, and there's almost nothing to even do there.
Wow.
And it's because they're making so much money from local service ads, they're like, okay, well, I guess it's justified. But there's almost like, so for people listening, if you are paying a ton of money or even a decent amount of money to an agency managing your local service ads, you don't need to. They basically run on their own.
That's pretty cool. So if somebody else has another digital marketing agency, and do you ever do like audits of other people's stuff to say, hey, you're overpaying in these areas?
Are you talking regarding advertising, like local service ads, Google ads?
Yeah, let's say someone has a question on like, am I overpaying for this services? Is that somebody you would want to talk to try to like help them find clarity on that?
Yeah, definitely. No, people talk to me about that all the time, and really, it kind of sucks because almost every single agency in the space is a scam. I don't know if I actually exactly want to use that word, but it seems like all of them don't know what they're doing. They don't have experts fulfilling the service.
Right.
A lot of them, it's a nightmare. Like a very common one that I see in the space is doing SEO or web maintenance, and companies will charge $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month. And then I talk with clients or prospects because we get on a discovery call. I'm talking through what they've been doing. Okay, what are you doing for SEO? And they're like, oh, well, this company is charging us $1,000 a month for SEO. And I'm like, well, what does SEO mean? I mean, SEO could mean a bunch of different things. We're setting up pages, we're getting backlinks, we're internally linking, doing on-page SEO, just Google Business Profile, whatever it is. But what are they doing? They're like, dang, I don't even know. And then they find out that it's actually just like web hosting, which could be like $20 a month or something like just making sure the site is up, and if it goes down, we can reach out to them. Okay, maybe that's $50 a month. Like, getting charged $500 to $1,000 a month. A lot of these companies are getting scammed with that.
Well, and I found myself in one of those positions with a different business that I owned where I was paying a lot of money. I think it was about $1,000 a month. And when I really got down to it, I was trying to figure out what exactly are we doing here, and what's the return on investment for the amount of money I'm spending. And I realized, like, I don't think there's an ROI here, and with that specific digital marketing company. And so I found myself stuck in one of those, I hate to call it a scam, but I've definitely felt like maybe I was paying for something that I wasn't getting. And so I actually switched companies, paid a fraction of what I used to pay, and got way better results. So it's I do think that within digital marketing, I think that there's a fear in that industry because not only have I experienced it, but I've heard a lot of other business owners talk about how they're like, I don't know, it feels like a ripoff. But I do think there are companies out there who maybe aren't a great return on investment for what they're doing. And that turns people off to the entire industry, which is sad because if you actually do harness the digital marketing the right way and in an efficient way, then it is a phenomenal investment, and it does come back on you for your ROIs there in a great way. And and so what do you know what like a good ROI is like for dollars spent on digital marketing coming back? What would be I don't even know what a great return is on that. Are there good numbers for that?
Yeah, so first of all, it depends on the service, and it depends on the platform. There's a lot of it depends here. We could get a little bit more approximate on specific paid platforms. It's much harder to kind of attribute ROI to SEO because SEO is going to take longer. Sometimes you might pay a lot of money and get no results for the first 3 to 6 months, and we end up getting more results than all the other platforms. So it definitely can depend there. Regarding, let's talk about like local service ads and Google ads in particular. We should shoot for around $100 for a cost per qualified lead. That is pretty industry standard. Not standard. That's pretty ideal. It might even get up there. Again, it also will depend on the area. If you're in a more competitive area, there will probably be more, and more densely populated, bigger city, versus for smaller areas that might be less. But usually we can expect around $100 per cost per qualified lead, and then maybe we close about 50% of those. So the tough part about this is that a lot of pest control companies, if they're running something like that, Google ads or local service ads, they might break even or potentially even lose money on that first initial acquisition to acquire that customer. And a lot of owners, I mean, I don't want to say bad things, but just it can be a little short-sighted at times, because you pay, let's say you pay $150 on average costs per acquisition. That sounds like a lot, and the first service, maybe you are doing $100 a month. That's kind of standard. I've seen companies around that range, a lot of companies around that range.
So if you pay $150 to get your $100 a month customer, and out of that $100 a month customer, obviously there's overhead and there's whatnot. There's a profit in there. Hypothetically, make math easy, $50 a month in profit coming off of that customer after you pay the technician and everything. And so it's like, you got to do the math. Like, well, it's going to be like 4 months before I even start to, break even on this investment. So you really got to get them in on a contract, and you really got to think much longer term on acquiring that. But I don't know, man, if you're paying a door-to-door sales guy, I mean, he's closing the deal. You got to pay him a commission. I don't know. I think marketing and sales is expensive, man.
More expensive. Yeah. No, like I was going to mention, you really should plan to keep customers for 5 years or more. That's kind of industry standard. It should be at least 3. Some companies can even get up to 7 years. If we can keep them for 5 years, if we're doing $100 a month for 5 years, I mean, that's like $6,000. So $100 to then make $6,000 from this customer. Well, then was that worth it? Yes,
absolutely.
Of course. And this is why something like pest control is so attractive to private equity. Like I talked to Adam Coffey. I had him on my podcast a while ago, and he's done $2.5 billion in home service deals. They're acquiring HVAC companies and pest control companies. And he said that pest control is the ideal company, the ideal industry for private equity, because we continue to hit their card every single month. It's a needed service. Even when COVID was going on, you could still provide pest control services because it was deemed as essentially needed. It was necessary. It was.
Well, yeah, the bugs don't know what the economy's doing. Like the bugs don't know. Right. Oh, the market's down.
People need
the market's up,
regardless of how the economy is. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. The roaches don't care. Right. They keep coming. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. So that is kind of the trade-off you're going to have to sacrifice. You're going to have to be willing to pay, $100 per, local service ad qualified lead, and then you're maybe closing half of those. But when you think about it from an LTV perspective and from an ROI perspective, it actually totally makes sense. I mean, wouldn't you want to spend $100 to make $6,000? Like, of course you would.
Right. Of course. Right. But you got to have that long-term vision. And if you look at the short term is hard. And as a business owner of multiple businesses myself, it is hard. There's times like, man, I got to spend this money that I don't really want to spend right now. And I had to buy a piece of equipment for $21,000 just recently. And I know it's going to pay for itself eventually. But writing that check was like, this sucks, and so it's like, you got to write that check, and then, I know in my head, listen, 5-6 months from now, it's totally paid for itself. In the next 3 years, it's making money for me. And so, but the same thing on digital marketing is like, okay, this stinks on the front end because you are paying a lot of money. You're not making any money immediately, but that long-term vision and that long-term strategy, you start to actually build a company that has you set yourself up for long-term future success.
Definitely. No, that's not always the case either. It's not necessarily always, just that standard $100 recurring. Sometimes you might get a big wildlife job. If you do wildlife, it might be a big termite job, maybe a big bed bug job. I mean, some of these services, I've seen wildlife jobs over 10 grand, the same thing with those other ones. So, pay, maybe it's even more. Maybe it's $300 for that $10,000 wildlife job. Are you not going to take that? Like, I don't understand the unwillingness to invest. Like, you have to think about things from an ROI perspective, and obviously that makes sense.
Yeah, and that happens to all of us. Every business owner I know, there's times you have to internally go, okay, hold on. Don't think about cash flow this month. Think about ROI 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years down the road. And sometimes it's, I don't know, as a business owner, it's challenging sometimes when you see the cash flow tight right now, but that it's the right thing long-term. And it's like emotionally talk yourself off the ledge, because money's emotional, whether we want it to be or not. We all have feelings about it. And so, yeah, having that mindset shift is really important.
Definitely. No, and I'll also mention something else, just like a little bit more tactical and regarding other things you should do for lead generation, is that we also need to get the Google Business Profile going. So also starting last year, local service ads are now tied to your Google Business Profile. You can no longer have a local service ads account without them, or without a Google Business Profile tied to it. So you have to make sure that you have a Google Business Profile, which just about every company already does. If people aren't familiar, that's where you collect your Google reviews. So maybe you ask people for Google reviews, you see that profile, maybe you've been on that dashboard where you can see you can edit and add FAQs and change your location and all that stuff. That's your Google Business Profile. And also, some people aren't aware of this, that it's completely separate from your website. So even though we link to our website from the Google Business Profile, those are still two completely different entities. The same way that your website is completely different from Google Ads, even though Google Ads also link to your website. So we want to make sure that we set up that Google Business Profile. So you can just search up Google Business Profile in Google, set that up, sign into your account. So you need to be logged into the email that you set that up with. And the main thing that we really want to do there, a lot of people talk about, different ranking terms and little optimizations that we can make. I'll tell people right now that some of the top ranking factors on your Google Business Profile are, number one, your business name. That is huge. And a lot of people in the local SEO space don't really think it should be. They think, like, why is Google doing this? But this has been a big thing for the past 10 years. I just had Claudia Tomina on my podcast. She's a Google Business Profile product expert. I've had a lot of the top people in local SEO on my podcast. Everyone agrees this is what it is. Your business name has a huge impact on how well you rank. And this is kind of the 80-20. Like I was saying, there's a lot of smaller things you can do, like FAQs and updates and such. But of the 80-20, the small things that we can do that really make the most impact, business name is one of them. So for pest control companies, we really like to have pest control in it, because that's the main pest control keyword. We don't have to go so far as like pest control near me, because that feels kind of spammy. That's like, you don't have to do that. Some people will include the city name. It's a little bit more optional. I'd say that's more for multi-location businesses. That's really where it makes sense. And that would honestly help you for ranking of, let's say I had a pest control company and I'm based in Chicago. Let's say it was Danny's Pest Control, and then maybe I do -Chicago. Then that would help me rank a little bit better.
Because then Pest Control Chicago is in the name of your business.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And also, relevant keywords as well. So you have Chicago in the business name, so now you might show up a little bit better for Chicago Exterminator, Chicago Pest Control, other variations of that term. So business name is huge. If you already own a big business, or if you don't want to change, that's fine. But this is just something you have to be aware of, that if you're not ranking well and you have a business name that isn't too well optimized, it doesn't really have keywords in it, that's going to hurt your rankings. Something else that's huge is the primary category on the profile. So you can have one primary category and then up to 9 secondary categories. So the primary category, this is like, there's not too much to do here. There can be more nuance with other industries. But for pest control, almost every time it's going to be the category pest control service. So that's kind of, there's not too much to do there, but that's also something to be aware of, that maybe you do pest control and wildlife, or pest control and lawn. And this is a decision you need to make. If you want more lawn care customers, then you should do lawn care service as your primary category instead. Again, this is heavily weighted for companies, and this is something we really take into deep consideration. So I'm working with an arborist in, he's kind of near the New Jersey area. He's like on the Connecticut border. And I actually made the executive decision to switch him. He was originally lawn care. We were thinking about tree care, but actually, because he doesn't do everything in lawn care, he doesn't do everything in pest, but he is doing everything as an arborist. He identifies as an arborist. I believe he's like a master certified arborist. The whole accreditation. We listed him as an arborist because almost no one else was listing themselves as that. So we can really dominate the arborist category, even though, other companies might not necessarily be doing it. We're doing it because we can completely dominate that term. And there's not going to be as many searches for something like tree service or lawn care, but we should rank much better on that. So that's something we want to consider. And then there's also secondary categories, which aren't as important, obviously, but we want to include those as well. So anything that you include, anything that you serve, that could be identified as a secondary category, we should put that in as well. So for pest control companies, that might be bird control service. Like I mentioned, that might be lawn care service. That might be installation contractor. That could be building inspector, home inspector. Let's see, there's like, this one changes a little bit, but there's essentially like a wildlife removal one. There's a bunch of different categories. So you need to search all of your services within the categories section and see which ones of these do we do. And this will help you show up much better for those terms if that's available.
No, that makes sense. So you got to make sure the name of your company is set up in the Google business profile. That's important. Getting your categories right. I understand that, categories right. What about reviews and photos? Do those things really, I would think reviews would play a big part in it as well. But reviews, photos, what else do you have in your Google profile that helps you get better rankings?
Yeah, so we'll continue here. So the third one I'd identify is address. So where your company is located, and even if you do have an address at all, this definitely plays into where Google is ranking your profile. So for people that don't know, Google Business Profile is proximity relevant. So you really can't expect to rank more than 3 to 5 miles outside of your location, if you even do have a location.
Wow.
So
a lot of home services, they're based out of somebody's house, and we're going to them. Like we leave our office and go to them. They're not coming to us. So the location, you would think, wouldn't be that big of a deal in a home services business.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be. And I kind of push against this. I wish this wasn't the case, but it's just proven. Again, I've talked to a lot of the top people in local SEO, and if you don't have a location, it is hurting your rankings. Now, again, like I mentioned at the beginning, it comes down to competition. So if you're maybe in a less competitive industry, which, we're talking pest control, and this is a pest control podcast, so I assume most people here are pest control. But if you're in something, maybe it's like, I see a lot of dog poop scooping companies coming up, and maybe some garbage companies. Maybe those are less competitive and you don't need a location. And, I'll give a more relevant example. I had a client, where was he? He was like somewhere in the middle of Utah, might have even been Wyoming, one of those states. Basically in the middle of nowhere. That he had, it was a city of like, 1,000, 3,000 people, and he only had 2 competitors in his area. So regardless of whether, how well he optimizes or whatever, he's showing up on that map pack of that top 3 because there's only 3 companies in his area. So in that sense, he doesn't have to worry about getting a location or doing some of these other things because he's showing up regardless. Now, something I was talking to him about is, well, we're going to show up really good in your area, but there's not many people here, which means there's not going to be many searches. So maybe we consider opening up a Google Business Profile in the city over that has 100,000 people. But now we probably will need to get a location, and we'll talk about strategically placing that. So it does depend on where you are, but location is a huge factor as well. So ideally, and again, we're coming back to pest control. Pest control is really competitive, and a lot of these companies do have offices, or they do have, I guess you could say, fake locations where they understand this thing that I'm talking about. Maybe they heard it from me or they heard it from someone else. When you have a location, you rank better, and Google will show you around that area. So that's also what I was getting into, is strategically placing. That if you, like actually what I was talking about with that arborist client, there is a really rich town in Connecticut. I think it's called Greenwich, or it's kind of on the border between New York. It has, I think it's the second largest city with the most billionaires or something like that. And he's like, dude, I want to show up there. And I'm like, okay, well, let's think about opening up a Google Business Profile there, because we can't rank very far out, but wherever we place it, we will rank very well around that immediate area. So we want to strategically place it ideally. Now, some companies, like you said, it might just be their home, or they might rent an office in the back of their friend's place, whatever, so you can't control that too much, but that's another big factor. And now I'll get into reviews as well. I'd say those 3 are really those are kind of the 3 core elements. But then we get into reviews. Reviews are more nuanced, and they're not so set of like, you either have the keyword in your business name or you don't. You have the category or you don't. I identify 4 aspects within reviews. So the first one would be total volume. How many reviews do you have total? Do we have 100? Do we have 1,000? Do we have 10,000? I mean, I see some companies with like 7,000 that are totally crushing it. So the first aspect is the volume. And like I said, we want to think about this from a competition perspective. So let's look at the people in our area. let's see how many reviews they have. Let's see how well they're showing up, and they're likely going to show up better with more reviews. And if all your top competitors have 500 reviews, then that's what we should shoot for. Obviously, it's going to depend. Someone might have 1,000, someone might have 500, 200, but you can get a pretty good grasp on what would make you competitive, essentially. So we want to be competitive on all these different factors. The first one would be volume. The second one would be the star rating. So usually I recommend companies be at least a 4.5. We don't have to be at a perfect 5, and we don't have to be at a 4.9, but we really should be at 4.5, 6, 7, maybe even 8, potentially 9. Really hard to get in all 5. It's very unlikely, and that's okay. We don't need that. There's even studies that show people actually find it less trustworthy because it seems like you're getting rid of all of them, or you might be paying for your reviews or something like that. So regardless, we want to consider that. And really where it starts to drop off and where you really start to get concerned is when you're under a 4. So I actually won't take on clients that have under a 4-star rating because there's something wrong with the company. They are doing a bad service. People aren't happy with them. Like it's not beyond repair, but that needs to get fixed before you try to jump into something like SEO, because digital marketing and things like SEO and paid search are an extension of how well how good your company is. So if
it's just going to amplify what you have.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So if you have a 3-star rated business, you're going to amplify that 3-star, and that's probably not a good thing. You probably need to fix the root issues to get yourself up to the higher rank, like a 4 over a 4-star. Then you're amplifying a 4-star, not amplifying a 3-star. I feel like you could almost digital marketing could almost like make your stuff worse if you have a really bad company. It's just going to amplify the badness, right?
It's just showing more people how bad you are.
Exactly. You got to fix that.
No one wants to work with a 3-star company, especially also because pest control is a really competitive industry, like I said.
Yeah.
There are a lot of companies that are crushing it on reviews. There are a lot of companies that do an amazing service and that do a lot of the things that I'm talking about. So we can't get out on this. We need to make sure that we are really crushing reviews. And I'll cover the last 2 factors briefly. We have recency and consistency. So not only do we want to have a lot of reviews and we want to have a great star rating, but we also want to make sure that we're getting them fairly recent. So I like to recommend getting a review at least once a week if we can, really implementing a review strategy and getting reviews from all of our customers. And then also consistency. So these are all things Google's looking at in terms of how well it can trust you and how well it wants to show you on the algorithm. Where, one of my clients, he has 4 locations. And one of them, he kept coming to me and he's like, dude, why is this location not ranking? I can't believe we're not getting any traffic to this Google Business Profile. And I'm like, dude, we have not gotten a review on this profile for over 6 months. So So even though, really there weren't a lot of reviews, it had a decent star rating and he's got a pretty good website, but if you haven't gotten a review in 6 months, you can't expect to rank. And really, I'd say even the past month, and sometimes when it's really competitive, even the past week, because some of your competitors might be getting a review every single day. So how are you comparing against that? And then that also directly ties into recency is, if we haven't gotten a review in the past 6 months, we're screwed. But if we consistently get a review every single week or every single day, that is a really positive signal to Google.
Got it. Okay, so consistency, I like the volume, the overall star rating has to be good. Yeah, that all makes sense.
And that ties into, by the way, like I mentioned, local service ads are tied to your Google Business Profile. So the reviews that you get on your Google Business Profile are showing on your local service ads account. They used to be more separated, and Google was kind of weird about this. It'd sometimes show both, or like kind of a mix of both, or sometimes just one or the other. But really, we're seeing a combination of the two. And Google's even getting rid of local service ads reviews in particular. So now it's just Google Ads reviews, just Google reviews. That they're one and the same. So this also then helps your Google local service ads rankings and conversions, because they're directly tied. Your local service ads, when they show up on Google, it's going to be all those Google reviews that you got. So not only do those reviews help your Google Business Profile, they also help your local service ads.
Nice. What about photos? Is adding photos helpful?
It helps, but that's one of the things we want to implement later. again, that's not like part of the 80-20, one of the first things that we want to do, but 100% that is something that we want to have in mind. So
how often should I upload a photo to my Google business?
Different people have different mixed opinions about this. I first like to get a big batch of photos on the profile to start. So I'd say at least 20 photos. If we could do 30 or 50, the more the merrier. But let's get a good batch of photos on the profile to start. Again, this isn't going to help rankings too much. I would say it's more of a conversion factor. So when people land on the profile, they're doing some research on your company, and before they click on your website or click immediately to call, they're searching around, they're looking around, and they see photos. And I've seen some companies that just have like a blurry photo of a raccoon, and they don't have they don't have a truck, they don't show their technicians, they don't show anything. If you are a great company and you are proud of what you guys do, then demonstrate that. Show, hey, this is our great truck, and this is Tommy, and this is Joey, and this is how we do our services. And really, I'm almost talking even from a video perspective, but that's also photos of, let's take a photo of all the top services that we provide. Let's take a photo of all of our technicians. And that's regarding what I recommend for photos. I always like to have it be a technician smiling, doing something. Those are kind of my 3 criteria.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So whatever they might be doing, they might be in the truck, they might be spraying, they might be in the house, they might be in the attic. Whatever those 3 are, because people want to connect with people. Google sees that you're a real company. You're doing what you say you do. It's not like a stock image. It's not an AI image. Right. But we're showing what we do. And also essentially showing that we are a real company and we want to connect with you. People want to connect with people. So we have those photos of people on the profile. Now, it's not just like pictures of bugs. I see a lot of pest control companies just do this. It's all pictures of bugs. It's like, no, people don't like bugs. That's actually unattractive. They want to connect with people and see who's going to come into their house.
Who's the guy coming to kill these bugs?
Right?
Yeah, kill them. If you show me dead bugs, maybe, but I don't want to see real bugs. Yeah, that's what I'm paying to get rid of that stuff. Yeah, that's interesting, man. So all right. So so as far as strategy wise, building a digital marketing SEO, web marketing presence, the foundation is really that Google My Business profile, getting that thing dialed in the right way. And then from there you can start amplifying it. And basically that's your foundation piece. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's your foundation. There are other foundational items we want to have as well. We should have some kind of website in place.
Right. Yeah, got to have a good website. Yep.
Yeah, just anything in place. I mean, we like to really hyper optimize and set up a ton of pages. You don't have to do it like us, but something should be in place. We also recommend that you have all of your social profiles in place. So we should have a Facebook page. We should have an Instagram. We should have a TikTok. We should have a LinkedIn. All of these different platforms, because this informs Google of who you are. These essentially act as citations and signals to verify that you are a real company, that we actually do what we say we do. Maybe you can even post on these platforms, but regardless, even just having the profile set up on those platforms helps. And then also on your Google Business profile, you should link to all of these platforms. So this is kind of new. I mean, in the past few years or so, that now you can link to all of your socials. And when Google sees that all of these are linked together, it acts as like a trust web. Sees, okay, I see your Facebook page, I see your Instagram page. Okay, wow, these are all linked together, and you have the same name here, and okay, you're starting to post on these different profiles. And Google is now even amplifying this more, where when someone clicks on your Google Business profile now, assuming you have linked to those social profiles, it will show your posts under the profile on these different platforms, not just your Google posts.
Oh, wow.
But also, if you're posting regularly on Instagram and you have linked to your Instagram, it will show all of your Instagram posts. And this also helps with conversions and also just Google trusting who you are.
That's fascinating. So having all this stuff builds more digital trust within the digital system, which means you're just more credibility within the market. And Google sees that, recognizes it. And then, wow, it's fascinating that I come from the technician background and building a business from that angle. And so I don't really even think about these things. I think about the quality of service that we're going to provide when we're there. But the trick is getting people there. And to get people there, you got to find leads and lead acquisition. And then the whole digital platform of it. I mean, this is fascinating to me. To me, I mean, I don't know about anybody else that's listening, but to me, man, it's like, man, I think I'd want to hire somebody to help me with this And it sounds like you've got this thing down, like you know exactly what you're doing and what steps to take and how to make this happen. It's fascinating. Do you have a website? Like if someone wants to learn more about like what you're doing and the services you're providing, how do we get a hold of you?
Yeah, so my website is pestcontrolseo.com. So just to recap.
Perfect. Pestcontrolseo.com. Yeah, that is so easy to remember.
I had to pay a good amount for that domain. So
I about to say, that was probably not the cheap one, right?
No, it wasn't too cheap. There are other competitors like pestcontrolseos.com, pestcontrolseo.net. But I got the actual one. So hey, I'm the SEO guy. I have the right website. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
And you run a podcast too, man. What's your podcast about?
Yeah, so I've got two podcasts. I've got Local Marketing Secrets and Pest Control Legends. So Local Marketing Secrets, I have a lot of the top people in local marketing. I've had just about everyone in local SEO, which is kind of one of the main topics that I'm in. And now I've really been having a lot of top people in home services. So I had the top guy in radio for home services, the top guy in training CSRs for home services, the top guy in branding for home services. Everything regarding local marketing, that's my thing. And then also Pest Control Legends, a newer podcast that I have. I've been running it for just about 3 months or so. I have a lot of the top people in pest control. So I've had, Matt Rogers, he's a big name in the space. I had Alan Draper, he's a big name in the space. But really, I just want to give back and help as many people as possible. And that's why I do a show like this. That's
awesome, man. I think that's really cool. And so if someone wants to get a hold of you directly, like what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so you can email me at danny@pestcontrolseo.com. You can also message me, which this might be better. Message me on LinkedIn or Facebook. So you can just search me up, Danny Leibrandt. It should be maybe in the title of this video or the description. You can search me up there, and you can send me a message on those platforms. I'm very quick to reply, and we can chat there, maybe get on a call, or just if you have some quick questions, I can answer them.
That's awesome. We'll put all this stuff in the show notes too. So if you're listening right now and you're driving and you're thinking, I don't want to pull over and write this down, just go to the show notes. We'll have all that stuff linked in, and so you can click right through and get to it and stuff. But man, dude, it's been really good having you in the show. My eyes have been open, and I'm realizing as you're talking, I'm like, there's some things I have been doing that I need to make different or make some changes. And I imagine there's people right now listening and go like, I need to make some of these changes right now. Because some of these changes you can just make on your own. You don't have to hire Danny. You can just start. You don't have to hire. You can just do it. But yeah, getting that foundation piece set, that allows when you do bring Danny in to be able to really throw some gas on a good fire and really take off with it, man. Dude, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'll just recap that real quick. And basically what you just said is that everything that I mentioned here is super actionable. Like you can set up your social profiles. You can set up your Google business profile. You can set up your local service ads. We didn't even talk about website stuff or Google ads or maybe other platforms, Facebook ads, Bing ads. Those things get much more complex. So hopefully this podcast was able to understand. Hopefully you got some value from it. And it was great sharing. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I can't wait to see you around, man. Absolutely. Thanks for having me.